All right, everyone. So we just talked about programming. Now we're going to talk about some of the other elements we can do for our worlds, like adding audio. Okay. Um, I want to add audio to a to our Unity world. Okay. The first thing you need to do is actually have audio. I recommend these are all in your, I put these under your resources in your module, but there's places like freesound.org or freemusicarchive.org where you can find music. Usually you have to, create an account, but that's free. So, feel free to do that. So I'm in freesound.org, and let's just say I was looking for some music. So I don't know, classical music. Okay. Okay. Let's say I wanted to use, I don't know. Another good one is this free music archive.org. You can kind of choose by areas. Um, More trip hoppy. So let's all right, let's say I wanted to use that one. You have to create an account. It is free, but you're gonna have to set it up. All right, we're back here. Got back into it. Am I going? Yeah. So I'm gonna go back and download that song. I think it was this one. Yay! I'm gonna hit download. All right. If you want to make edits to sound effects or music, if you have the Adobe suite, you could use Adobe Audition. I use a free, here's a free one that's available to you guys. It's called twistedwave.com. And what I would recommend is you go to Twisted Wave, choose the online version, and then you can actually upload the file, hit upload. And I'm going to upload, say, the music that I just got. So you can see it uploading here. It should open a special little window. This is my music. So you can see this is my waveform or the vibrations of my audio, how loud it is. Now my music's kind of loud. I also kind of want to edit it. So if you highlight any part in Twisted Wave, you can actually delete, and I would delete that part of the music. Let's just say I wanted to delete that. Now my music is also really loud here. So Twisted Wave has some very basic ways of editing your music. If you go under effects, there's an option called amplify. Amplify allows you to make the sound louder or quieter. When it says 0 dB, 0 dB means decibels. Um, what that means is the zero means the default level of the audio. Okay. So if it was recorded really loud, the default is loud. If it was recorded really softly, the default is soft. Now, in this case, our music's very loud. As a general rule of thumb, this is up to -6. It's in the red area. You don't usually want it that loud. You want it about -12. Okay. If it's too loud, it can cause some issues. So what I'm going to do is go under amplify, and I'm going to set this to maybe like -5. Oops. So you can see that the waveform got smaller. Still a little loud. Still like kind of in the -6 area. And I'm gonna, maybe instead of -5, let's do -8. That's a little too soft. Let's do maybe 7. Okay. So let's say I like that. Also, if I wanted to do like a fade in, fade out, which means a fade in is when you go from soft to loud. A fade out is when you go from loud to soft. I'm going to highlight this, and they actually have sort of a built-in little fade in. So it's going to start soft. And maybe I'll do a fade out here. Okay. Now that I'm done, I'm going to download this. I recommend downloading as MP3 file, and I'm going to go to download. I'm going to give this a better name, like, I don't know, background music. All right, and I'm going to hit download. So that's going to download. There you go. Now what I'm going to do is take that music, and I'm going to add it to my project. So here's the song. Let's take it in here, into day 2, into assets, and then into audio. Okay. So if I want to take a look at the audio, here it is. I can play it back. Okay. All right, let's say that I wanted to have background music for my world. Okay, right now I have this world, and I can, go around and collect things and that kind of stuff. Let's say I want to do that. What I'm going to do is to add that to my world. I'm going to add a music. And to do that, I'm actually going to add it to an empty. I'm going to create a new empty, and I'm going to call it audio. Okay. And the reason why I'm going to do that is I just want to be able to find it. And I'm actually going to add a component. And I'm going to go under audio components, and we're going to use something called an audio source. Okay. What this means is that the audio source is the ability to play back a song. Okay. When you get this, the main thing is the actual song. So for instance, I could take this and I'm going to drag that into my audio resource. Okay. Or I could drag any of these other pieces of music. Okay. And now that I've done that, let's hit play. Okay. Do you see that worked? Now, for this to work, make sure that under your audio source, oops, that play on awake as a checkbox is turned on. Okay, what that means is that play on awake means as soon as this object loads into the game, do whatever this is immediately. Okay, now in this case, since this is part of the default world, it'll automatically play this music. Okay, if you didn't have it on, your music's not going to automatically play. Now, it's possible to write code that gets that music to play, but it's not going to happen automatically. Okay, you can see the music isn't happening that way. Okay. I'm going to go back and let's take this and I'm going to change it to maybe this little thing that says you win.
You win. You win.
And I'm going to go to here and let's put that here. If I use loop, what that means is rather than playing the sound file once, it's going to loop it again and again. Oops, except it needs to play on awake.
You win. You win. You win. You win. You win.
Okay, so you can see how it plays again and again. Some other things you might want to do, you know, if your volume is too high, you could play, you know, so right now I just put in retro game music as my music. If I lower the volume to 0.2, that's going to make the volume much less than it was before. Okay. Let's say I have music and I want, or like a sound effect, and I don't want the sound effect to happen immediately. Okay, so I have this collect sound. And I want to play it anytime I hit one of these objects here. So I have these two diamonds. And to be honest, they should have box colliders on it. They're set to trigger. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the sound effect, collect sound effect to my player like this. It's going to actually automatically add an audio source. And I'm going to turn off play on awake. Okay. So my game's going to run and the music will run. And when I want to set it that when I touch one of these items, these diamonds, because of the trigger, I want it to play that sound effect. Okay. All right, so what we're going to try to do is I have an audio file here, and I want to play it back when my ball collides with another object. Okay. So before I do anything, I kind of want us to go, hopefully you kind of remember P5 a little bit, right? And at least with my class, I don't know if every class did P5, did the sound library, but I have this P5 document here. So I've included the P5 library and then the sound library. You guys might remember, I'm just going to set up a basic P5 file here. So I'm just going to set this to create document or canvas. 400, 400, 220. All right, I'm going to set this up. So I'm going to create I'm going to create a variable called sound. Okay. And I'm going to make this into an object. And if you remember, an object is a type of variable that has properties and functions inside of it. Okay. In my example that I've done ad nauseum for people is usually when you have like, my analogy is almost always like a car. And it's like, well, a car can have properties like type, sedan, color, red, top speed, 200. Cars can also have functions like turn car on, turn car off, turn on radio, turn off radio, you know, things like that. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this variable and we're going to turn this, we're going to, inside of this variable, this container, we're going to stick a sound object. Okay, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use the preload. I think it's preload. And I'm going to take the sound, I'm going to take the variable sound that I created, and I'm going to say load sound, and then I'm actually going to use the MP3 file you win. Okay. So what I've done here is I have a variable. A variable is a container that holds something, like a value, like red or 12 or something. And I'm going to load in an object. That object is a sound object, and it has properties like what song is it, and how long is the song, and that kind of stuff. And it also has functions or methods, as we would say, which is like turn song on, turn song off, play song backwards or whatever. Okay. So what I'm doing is I am taking this variable, and this is essentially putting a sound object inside of it. Now what I'm going to do is say, okay, now that I have this sound object, when someone presses their mouse, sound dot play, which means play a song, play the sound effect.
You win. You win. You win.
So what happened here is, I have this library of code in P5 has a it's called a class. And what it does is it's a sound object that had pre-made properties and variables, or sorry, methods in it. Okay. I made this variable into that object, or to hold that object. And that object itself had built-in methods or functions like play or pause or stop. Okay. Now, why am I showing you that? Well, we can do the same thing with C#. Okay. I'm going to go to player move sound, which is the code that's being applied here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a variable. Okay. I'm going to call it public audio source. I'm going to call it, I don't know, sound effect. Okay. What I want to do, and we talked about this with the code, is when this starts, I want to take this. So this is this is a variable type that's specific to Unity. It's a audio source. Okay. What I want to do is take that variable called sound effect, and I want to load in this. Sorry, my thing's running a little bit slow. I want to load in this component, and more specifically, load in this. Okay. So the way that we're going to do that is there's actually some code that we can write that'll let us do this. It's in your instructions. I got to go look at the instructions directly. It's in your slides, but it's also in some of the side code I gave you. What I could do here is I'm going to say sound effect equals get component. Get component. So get component does what it sounds like. It gets a component. What component is it getting? Well, I'm telling it to get the audio source component. This is essentially equal to kind of this is pretty much equivalent to kind of like this, where I'm loading, here I had a variable and I loaded in a sound from a function built into P5. What I've done here is this is a variable that I built. I'm loading in a component. Which component? The audio source component. This is the audio source component. So I'm going to get all of this information that I can now use in my code. Okay. So this is essentially turning the sound effect into an object. Now, what I want to do is I want to say, okay, well, when you collide with something, why don't we say, well, sound effect dot play. Okay. So in other words, this is now a sound object, And one of the methods or the functions inside of it is the ability to play the sound. We can also do things like stop the sound or, other things. I'm going to hit save. Maybe I kind of want to do it to this. This is the finish line. So I'm actually going to add, let's add a box collider to this and a trigger. And I'm going to add a sound file to this called you win. And I'm going to add that same code to, I'm going to make some code for that too. This one was attached to the player. I don't want to use the same piece of code because that would cause this to move, but let's just create one from scratch. Let's call this, I don't know, game sound. It's pretty much the same thing. Let's do the same. I'm going to call this public audio source game sound games sound equals get component audio source. And then if something were to trigger it, the collision, which is basically this. So if something collides with it, let's play that sound effect, game sound play. Okay. So I think that should work. Give it a second. It's got to load all the code. All right, hit play.
You win.
Oops. I made a mistake there. I got to turn this off so it doesn't play on awake. Now let's try that. Oh, I didn't apply the code to it. Let's try that. Oh. Okay. All right, so hopefully that kind of taught you some basics of adding audio to your world. In the next video, we'll talk about moving between scenes. We'll also talk about user interface and adding things like text or how to add your own fonts and things like that in Unity. Okay.